Town of Walpole notice of intent, Conservation Commission, public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act. Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw, notice hereby given the intent of Robert Chase for the upgrade of a residential septic system located at 6 Northwood Drive. Plans are on file with the Conservation Commission office. Public hearing on the above matter will be held in Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, September 25th, 2019, beginning 7 p.m. All interested persons request to be present. Time is now 7 p.m. And
You can come up front, yeah.
let's see what we have from the other boards here. This is from the Board of Appeals. Proposed project not before the Board of Appeals, and therefore have no comments. Town engineer. The Engineering Department received notice of intent application, the plan titled Plans and Details Subsurface Sewage Disposal System Upgrade, 6 Northwood Drive, Walpole, M.A. Robert Chase. 6 Northwood Drive, Walpole, to 02081. Prepared by Collins Civil Engineering Group. Note the following. We recommend the proposed erosion control be installed along the frontage of the lot to protect sediment from the public way. Silt sacks across the street on the north side is likely not necessary, as stormwater from the site will likely not make it over the road crown. Board of Health at its September 3rd meeting voted unanimously that they have no concerns with the plan, recognizing this is a repair of a failed system. For that reason, doing the right repair for the right reason, even though work will occur within the buffer zone.
Current on the
This is
bottom.
current in the Finance Department. Okay, this is from the Planning Board. Received a request for comments on the above referenced application, however, no planning comments at this time. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. Representing the applicant,
Good evening, representing the applicant and homeowner. I'm Peter Lyons with Collins Civil Engineering Group. Just mentioned we have a repair on an existing 4-bedroom septic. We have on-site to the east of the existing driveway. Our proposal is to take the plumbing at the back of the house, come to a 1,500 gallon septic tank to a 1,000 gallon pump chamber, and then pump up and around the house to a leaching area in the front yard. Our test holes out here, we encountered a bunch of fill. Even where the system is going, we found about 8 feet of fill. So a couple things we're contending with are, depth to natural material on the site. In the front yard, we have gas lines and water lines, which pushes us a little bit closer to the wetlands. All the work to be done is in existing lawn areas. We're not taking down any trees, we're not changing any grades. So the only disturbance is gonna be during the project. We've proposed erosion control to adequately contain any silt or runoff around the whole project. As mentioned by the commission, we can install a secondary erosion control system to prevent anything from migrating towards the street. Overall, it's a pretty straightforward project. Couple quick distances, we're about 60 feet from the wetlands to the closest corner of the proposed tank, and 57 to the closest corner of the field. Any questions or concerns on this?
Landis?
So you're gonna have to take all the fill out and then put in,
Yes, so all the fill, in this particular project, we don't really have a use for it.
yeah, so you'll truck it out?
So it's all gonna be trucked out. There is gonna be a significant amount of material trucked out of there. The 5-foot over dig around the system we're removing a depth of 102 inches. So, yeah, a lot of material coming out. And
So you just
sand
have a
coming in.
truck and pull it out and put it in the truck, or are
Yep,
you gonna
they'll probably-
stockpile it?
They'll probably load it right up off the street and get it out of there. You know, the truck has access into the front yard. For the tanks, it's not really a lot of stockpiling with that. I mean, maybe only for a day or so while they dig the holes, and then they typically drop the tanks, right in, and then that gets cleaned up. So,
So it's fine.
No
So the
real
main concern
stockpiling.
is Northwood Drive, just that everything can
Yep.
be contained on site. If you have to move the erosion control while you have the truck there, and if it gets on the street, it just needs to be swept up and then put the erosion control back up.
yep, yeah, it's not much of a slope, but a little bit. Overall, it comes from this corner to the wetlands and a little bit back towards the road. So, yep, we can do that.
That's it.
Okay. Doug?
I got 3 questions. The existing leaching bed, is it basically where the new one's going?
Now, the existing leaching is in the back of the property. So coming out of the back of the house, we had an existing tank to what we call an approximate location of the existing, grayed out in this triangle
Okay.
here.
So this will be actually a little bit further away from the wetlands than the existing?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep, so the existing field is, to be decommissioned in place, you know, it's under the lawn. So that's
Okay.
just gonna be left untouched.
Okay. And then, second question, when you remove the unsuitable soil
Yep.
and replace it, how does the perk test work with that? I assume that has to be a perk test done.
Yep, in this case, there was a sieve analysis done instead of a perk test, because as mentioned, we have, 80 and, 80, well, the sandy loam's really no good either, so we have to take out 8 feet here and a little bit under on test pit 2, so we would have been doing our perk test down, 8 or 9 feet, which is a safety thing, and it also puts us, in the groundwater. So how does the perk test relate to that? We're basically stripping out all of the fill, and we're using, for a design, the perk test characteristics of the deeper sand. So we're gonna have nice clean sand sitting on top of that, so it'll travel through the sand into the natural stuff.
Existing.
Yep.
Okay.
So the perk test, or the
Yep.
rate, is determined from the lower material.
Okay, got it. And the third question, during the transition, is the homeowner still in the house?
Yeah, like, is there a downtime? Like
Yeah, so the current septic system would be operating while the new one's being put in?
Yep,
Okay.
there's really not much of an overlap, or no real cause for concern, because they would install the new tanks, and then, even if it's not hooked up to the field, you got a couple days storage capacity in the tanks, and, they tend to be over-designed from a capacity standpoint anyways,
Okay.
so, yeah, you can go for a couple days before you have to worry about the tanks, getting filled, and then,
Okay,
typically, something like this is done in about a week. If they show up Monday, they can have it mostly cleaned up, with the exception of loam, seed, and grass, but, usually it's in and out in about a week. And the downtime is maybe a half a day while they change the plumbing from the existing tank to the new tank.
okay. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Roger?
No, I think it's a good program.
No comment.
Al?
Well, I wasn't clear when I first looked at the plan where the existing leaching field was, but now I see it here, approximate location. And, okay, so the sensible thing is, since the house is set up to go out the back, then you have to bring it around the front. Okay, so I don't see that there's a big issue there. My only question was, you answered, you're going to use design soil to replace what you remove, soil that will meet the specs for infiltration, so I don't have anything else.
Okay, any in the audience have any questions or comments, please identify yourself for the record. We'll make a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. 5-0. Okay, standard order, anything different in there? Just to clean up this, keep the street clean?
That's pretty much in our standard orders anyway, so.
I don't think we need the crushed stone pad to the street because it's so close to the
Yeah, I
street,
think
but
he's good.
just something in there that they daily clean up the street.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Someone make that a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 5-0.
Would you like him? Do you want him in the middle or?
Yeah, facing us. Please. This is
It's Northwood. We just did that one.
Northwood.
Yeah.
Go to Walpole, notice of intent, Conservation Commission, public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Wetlands Protection Act. Go to Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw, notice is hereby given in the intent of Rolls-Royce Marine North America, Inc., a manufacturing building expansion partial redevelopment project located at 110 Norfolk Street. Plans on file at the Conservation Commission office. Public hearing on the above matter will be held in Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, September 25th, 2019, beginning at 7:15 PM. All interested persons request to be present. Time is now 7:15. And we have some comments from other boards. From the Planning Board, receipt of your requests, comments on the above referenced application. There are no planning comments. Or help that is say they have no concerns with the plan. This is there's nothing,
He's got
this
101.
DEP,
No,
Yeah,
I know, but this is the
their
proposed.
only comment which
I went through it.
about the
It's
footpath,
gonna be
but
Oh.
it was existing anyways.
Good, yeah.
good. Well, DEP's comment, if the footbridge is proposed and not existing, please provide an updated notice of intent form with the impact areas, the resources that will be impacted, and demonstrate compliance with respective performance standards, but that is existing. Is that correct?
Yep.
This is from a butter on North McDonald Circle. This is just a brief note. Thank Amy for the help she gave me, and a person from Swan Pond requesting information regarding Rolls-Royce plans to expand their operations at 110 Norfolk Street. As you know from the past, we on McDonald Circle have had a significant number of occasions when we have been affected by the slow release of water from the wetland behind 102 Norfolk Street and the subsequent buildup of water on McDonald Circle. According to the person from Swan Pond, they have also been experiencing the same problem but for a different reason and from a different water source. I read the notice of intent, I received the mail seeking permission to remove fill dredge, alter subject to protection under the Wetland Protection Act. I had visions that they were going to alter the wetland behind 102 Norfolk Street. To reading the introduction, pages 3 and 4, and project summary, pages 1 to 4, appears that there are no plans to alter the wetland behind 102 Norfolk Street, and what little I know about the Wetland Protection Act, it appears based on what I've read that Rolls-Royce is doing their best to adhere to the wetland buffers to minimize impact to the wetlands. Reading the material that Amy copied for me, I'm much less concerned about the Rolls-Royce expansion than was yesterday. Hope to be at the meeting on 9/25 to review the plan in more detail. This is from Larry Southwood for McDonald Circle. 78 Town. The Finance Department. There's a tax balance due and a past due item. Anybody aware of that? For the,
You just need to touch base with them. It's a relatively small amount, so just.
so do that so you can get that done so we can issue whatever paperwork we may issue tonight. Let's see, Board of Appeals. This is not before the Board of Appeals. We therefore have no comment at this time. So that is board comments. Do we have letters or whatever for the notice has been sent out? Okay, representing the applicant.
I'm sorry, can I just move this plan? Just move it off to the side so I can see your face. Memorandum that just gives a brief project description and outlines the criteria of the act. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. My name is Joanna Giorgio-Hilbert from Mackey & Mackey, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Rolls-Royce Marine North America. Also with me tonight is Don Franzen, who is the Business Improvement Manager at the Walpole facility at Rolls-Royce. And then we have the engineers, Eric Cordes and Neil Hingoran, from Narragansett Engineering. So I'm just going to sort of briefly give you an overview of the project, how we comply with the act, and then I'm going to turn it over to Eric to go into the technical detail that I know would be more interesting to you. Okay. keep my part of the presentation short. So the site is located on the southwest side of Norfolk Street. It's an existing facility, the Rolls-Royce manufacturing facility. The site contains approximately 918,000 square feet of land and is currently occupied by 4 manufacturing buildings, totaling approximately 80,000 square feet. The proposed addition will be an expansion of Building 3. The addition will actually attach to the rear of Building 3. And essentially what this will do is, as a manufacturing facility that refurbishes very large ship propellers, the streamlining of the manufacturing assembly line process is very important to this site. It will allow them to bring all of the process inside, some of which is currently outside. It will allow them to reduce transportation between buildings and essentially will create efficiencies for the manufacturing process, but will also better protect the site. And so, you know, essentially it's really just a redesign of the site to make it a more efficient site for Rolls-Royce. So the major elements of the proposed project include the demolition of the existing paved laydown area and the construction of a 30,651 square foot addition on the southwest corner of Building 3, including a 2,150 square foot shed for equipment and dumpster storage, a 20-foot wide fire lane, and a new 21,750 square foot paved laydown area. Most of the construction is going within an existing disturbed area. The impervious is increasing slightly on the site, but we're going from, I believe, about 18.6% impervious up to 20.4%. So it's a minor increase. In terms of the criteria under the Act, as you well know, there are 8 criteria that the applicant must show how it meets these criteria. The first is protection of the private or public water supply. So as you may know, the site is located within a water resource protection overlay district. Because this is a redevelopment versus a new construction, there are different standards under the Stormwater handbook. However, the applicant has chosen to meet the more rigorous standards and is going to actually be improving the stormwater drainage system on the site. There will be 2 new infiltration facilities, which will vastly improve the drainage on the site and remove pollutants in the runoff and create better protection for the aquifer. Otherwise, there are no real changes to the operations on the site. So this, we view this as an improvement towards the protection of the drinking water. The second is the protection of the groundwater. And again, we will be improving the stormwater drainage system, which Eric will go in detail for you in a few minutes. But you know, again, we've chosen to go beyond what is required for redevelopment and provide a better drainage system for this site. Third is to provide flood control. As I think one of the comments mentioned, there has been, I know, some concerns with flooding on Norfolk Street. And again, first of all, the area that is being developed is not in that area, but in any event, the stormwater drainage system is going to be designed for to mitigate the 100-year storm, and you know, so again, we exceed the redevelopment standards. For prevention of storm damage, there will be an erosion and sediment control program in place, which will install temporary erosion and sediment controls and construction sequencing. Areas of exposed soil will be kept to a minimum, and permanent vegetative cover will be established as soon as practical after final grading. The details of that are in the stormwater documents that were submitted. And again, I think the the likelihood of storm damage and off-site flooding will be reduced due to the 2 new detention basins that are being added to the site. Prevention of pollution. Work and soil disturbance will be confined within the limitations of the proposed erosion control areas and will not take place in the resource areas. We don't anticipate coming across contaminated soil, but in the event that we do, it will be removed up and dealt with in accordance with the mass contingency plan. Number 6, to protect land containing shellfish. This criteria is not applicable to this project. Number 7, to protect wildlife habitat. We're not minimizing or eliminating development within the buffered area and the wetlands. We will take measures to protect the undeveloped areas through the erosion and sediment control program. And number 8, to protect the fisheries. Again, this is not applicable to this project, as there are no fisheries on the site. So the applicant would respectfully submit that it has met the 8 criteria of the act. In terms of the specific criteria of the Walpole bylaw, most of which match up with the Wetlands Protection Act. There are 3 additional criteria, which is protection of the values of recreation, aesthetics, and agricultural values. With respect to recreation and agricultural values, this is an existing manufacturing site, and so those would not be applicable to this project. As far as aesthetics goes, the proposed addition is located on the rear of Building 3, which is towards the back of the property. It will not be visible from the street or to the butters, and therefore protects the aesthetic values in the area. So we respectfully submit that we have met the criteria of both the Wetlands Protection Act and the Walpole bylaw, but I would turn it over now to Mr. Cordes, who will go into detail on the specifics of the project. Thank you.
Evening. So we have the existing site of 21 acres. Our area of concern is going to be basically in this area. We have an existing laydown area, and we have some wetland areas and associated setbacks associated with them. Start out with, as far as this project, we did a meets and bounds survey of the property, make sure we had the boundaries down correctly. A UAV flight to do our surveying of the existing conditions. We had a biologist come out and do the delineation of the wetlands on the area. For the wetlands, we ended up with bordering vegetative wetland with a 100-foot buffer zone, an inland bank associated with an intermittent stream in the vicinity of the bordering vegetative wetland. We've got, we're bordering land subject to flooding, the 100-year floodplain. There's no base elevation by FEMA on that. And then we have an isolated vegetative wetland that's protected under the Walpole bylaw, but not necessarily under the state bylaw, but it applies in this case. So for the property, we soil analysis for basins. Went through and did the analysis of the existing utilities. The site is served from the 12-inch water main and the road, which 8-inch lateral comes through the site. We're gonna feed this addition from the sprinkler and the domestic water from the existing services to the existing building 3. And we're gonna add in a water line going out to another hydrant out here to improve the fire protection aspects on the site. So the area is zoned light manufacturing. The building coverage joining around our setback issues are on the northwest side of the property, there's a 40-foot setback. We're at about 43 feet, extended the existing building back there, so there's no variances needed on that zoning portion. The building height conforms to the zoning regs, just slightly less than the allowable 43 feet, I think it is. So for parking,
Parking's not our issue.
that's your issue. Okay, sounds good.
You get to the wetland issues, please.
Wetland, yep. So wetland buffers, we've got a wetland border here. The 100-foot buffer that we applied to that was the worst case of the wetland flooding or the inland bank. And there's an isolated wetland here, which again has a 100-foot setback and a 25 no-cut zone. So the proposal is to stay outside of the 25 no-cut zone. Infiltration basin is more than 50 feet away from the wetlands as well. And where we are encroaching on the 100-foot buffer is in the pavement area and stormwater construction. As far as the site concerns, where the laydown area, we reduced that area by 1/3, trying to reduce the amount of impervious that's out there as much as possible. We decided to use infiltration basins to do basically three things: maximize our aquifer recharge. Peak reduction is also key, and volume reduction. So that in our meetings with the town, they emphasized trying to reduce impacts to flooding. So these basins are actually oversized according to the stormwater manual. So the west portion of the site, it discharges over into this corner. There's a 70% peak reduction and a 30% volume reduction. In the worst case scenario, in the 100-year storm. And on the east side, we have a 50% peak reduction and a 32% volume reduction for the numbers. For the sedimentation erosion control, it's going to be the standard features: sill sock, check dams in areas where the water accumulates, and we're going to do a double layer of S&E along this whole entire border here because of the wetlands over there, just to make sure we have a good protection of the assessment. We had review with the town engineer. We got some comments today. We went through and reworked pretty much everything, including what he had, and the numbers actually got a little bit better.
I'm looking for the town engineer's letter. Never copied. It's in the file. So I know that the town engineer had some questions about the calculations, but you were telling me out in the hall that you had talked to him and rerun the calculations, and he was satisfied with the
Yes.
with the recalculation.
Are there any questions?
Hold on a second. You want to read the engineer's comments? His new comments are here. This starts where it says new comments.
It is from the town engineer.
Yeah.
Stormwater. Both conservation agent and myself would prefer that the notice of intent and stormwater report be filed separately. Stormwater report should include the construction SWPP and the post-construction O&M, but does not need a lot of other info provided, such as the existing site, SWPP, etc. Additional information, if desired, to be furnished in a supplemental binder. The appendix are not well identified, and list of appendices is printed in the report countless times. The presentation is confusing. Existing and proposed watershed maps are provided in the front report behind the narrative. Both maps are unclear and flawed for several reasons. The graphics are unclear. Proposed features such as basins and auto-turn templates, spot grades, etc. should not be on existing watershed maps. Maps should clearly identify the catchment areas, reaches, design points, and the limits of the areas. Lengths and slopes should be noted on the TOC path. Currently, design points are not identified. TOC are shown but not understood. The limits of the catchments are hard to identify. We would prefer the watershed maps to be located in the report just ahead of the routing diagram. The HydroCAD report should be prepared with existing watershed and proposed watershed run separately. In the current report, they are combined. We have the following comments on the catchment areas. We suggest using a minimum time of concentration of 6 minutes on all catchments. Appendix Page 86, subcatchment 2S, the TOC is 49.8 minutes. Very long for a small watershed. Subcatchment 4S has no sheet flow. It's a question. Several catchment areas are modeled with very flat slopes of 0.002 feet per foot. We find that assumption odd based on the topography presented. The O&M task checklist should be provided to Conservation Commission annually, no later than 12/31. There are other comments here. So, have you seen this letter? You have this letter?
Yeah, I got the letter yesterday, and, yeah, I ran through all the calculations today, and basically, for the most part, the changes caused a difference in Maple Peaks, and the reduction is actually greater than what I had originally. I was being conservative one way on the existing, and conservative the other way on the proposed, and he's maybe changed that, and on paper, it increases the effectiveness of the
Are you satisfied
Um,
with the adjustments?
Yes. I looked at the actual design of the stormwater system, and he's got 2 infiltration basins, which are fairly good size. And it is meeting the rate and infiltration. So yes, I think it was more of an organization thing with the stormwater book, so, and he.
Yeah, I can separate I put everything in one book, and I should have separated them into separate
Right,
books.
so the information was a little hard to find, but he did say that he talked to Carl Badoff, the town engineer, and he was satisfied with the revised calculation. So I guess we just need the revision to be submitted.
Yeah, we're gonna meet with Carl
Okay.
one more time, and then we can do
Have anything else?
No, I thought it was a good design. He'd come and talk to me a couple times, with different scenarios and suggestions, so I don't really have any other.
Okay. Doug?
This may be a question for the business manager. I assume the operations, you make use of processing chemicals during the manufacturing work?
We make use of very limited chemicals, and we also have very stringent health, safety, and environmental controls to ensure that if anything goes between the buildings, that they are cleaned beforehand. However, what this will allow us to do is allow us to reduce the amount of material and equipment that has to transfer between the buildings, so it'll all stay under one roof to further eliminate the health, safety, and environmental potential for impact as well.
Basically, the reason I asked the question is if there are chemicals even currently on site, or more to be brought in, do you utilize secondary containment for chemical spills?
Yes, yes, we do.
Thanks.
Anything else there?
That's it.
Okay, Roger?
Well, I stole some of my thunder, but that's okay. I imagine the drains within the floor drains are all being treated. Do you have any way of
Yes, the-
spills within that could possibly get into the wetland?
The floor drains are controlled. I don't have all the details of the individual floor drains for the building design. Eric, do you have more information on that?
Yeah, there's no floor drains per se. There is one area where they will have a floor drain, and that is being collected and pumped to a tank. And then that water is pumped and disposed of offsite. So there's no floor drain connected to the sanitary sewer. The only sanitary is 2 bathrooms and a break room, and that waste is going to the sanitary system.
Roger, to answer your question, I was fairly certain we have a secondary collection process in place, but I wanted Eric to speak to that officially.
Well, you using cutting oils to keep the tools cool.
Right. There's no floor drain in that area with the cutting.
And how is that recycled, so it doesn't get into the wetland or into the water?
It's recycled within the building.
And when it's ready for replacement, it's trucked out?
Yes.
Okay. I'm very concerned about Norfolk Street. That's been known for a flooding area. And they did increase the drainage, the pipes, with a grant, I believe.
Yes,
And, am I right?
yes, they did, yeah.
So, the other thing I'm concerned about, which affects all this, is global warming. And we can expect the 100-year storm. They very often are like 10-year storms or 25-year storms. And, I think that we should be planning for these to be taken care of. And not just say, oh, we take care of the 100-year storm of yesterday. But the 100-year storm of tomorrow is another problem.
We did use the latest runoff rainfall numbers that the town requires. And the other, I did run the analysis for a 200-year storm just to be curious, and there's still a reduction in a 200-year storm with this design. So it's we're doing our best within the site constraints to reduce the impact of flooding from this development as much as we can.
Well, you also have, basically, you're butting up and you're getting some of the runoff from Cedar Swamp. And also the other pond and swamp area
Right.
in back of you. And I realize there's not a heck of a lot you can do about it, but you're the victim of it. And that passes you through your property.
Yes, their picnic area floods.
So I want to be sure that that's been considered. And the flooding that's affecting your property from, the Cedar Swamp area and the pond area
Right.
and the budding streets.
One thing I wanted to mention is that the homes at Swan Pond, the trustees hired their own engineer, Bill Buckley from Bay Colony Engineering, and we provided him with a plan set and a copy of the stormwater drainage report to review because they were concerned about flooding as well. He reviewed it. I spoke to him today, and he has no concerns.
Well, that doesn't take care of Cedar Swamp, though.
No, I'm just saying in terms of, I know that there are concerns about flooding in the the Norfolk Street area, and I just wanted to mention that, that
See-
it had been reviewed by, they had hired an engineer to review it.
Yeah.
So-
We don't want to lose you the area in Norfolk Street, but at the same time, we don't want you to get flooded out either. So,
Right, the area, the lay down area in the building will not be affected by the flooding now.
Anything else, Roger?
no.
Betsy?
So I had a question about this 10-foot gate for snow disposal. I don't think I've ever quite seen that phrase before. Does that mean that the snow's gonna be stockpiled out here, outside of the chain link
If they
fence?
if you get a large storm, some of they stockpile some in a couple different areas of the site, and this is one option to order some snow.
Because
out to that
generally,
area.
we don't stockpile snow in 25-foot buffers.
It's not within the 25-foot buffer.
Okay.
It's just, it would be a local area here. We're trying to find the area as far away as possible from the wetlands and the infiltration basins.
Thanks.
Anything else, Betsy? Al?
Okay, I've got a couple of questions here. I see two basins, but I don't see any piping that brings water to the basin. So I'm not sure where the water comes from that goes into the basin. And I don't know what a plunge pool is connected to this basin.
Okay.
Okay, and I'm not sure.
There's another one on the other basin.
Okay, yeah.
And what that's doing is, the water's getting to the basin two ways. One that's not shown on the plan that we, on this plan, is a header for the roof leaders. So the roof leaders go directly to the basins because that is considered clean in the stormwater manual. The other areas, the pavement area actually drains overland, and then there's curbing on the edge of the curbs. This area drains to there.
Would you show us on, so everybody can see what you're talking about?
We got four areas for stormwater drainage. This paved area comes to this area. There's a dividing line here. This comes to this end of the basin. This area drains to this point here, and then this part drains into here. Roof drainage will be piped in, and then piped in outside of the four bays, because the four bays are trying to settle out particles prior to it getting into the infiltration basin. Then coming out of the basin, basically there's four discharges. One's infiltration through the bottom. There's a 4-inch overflow. There's a 2x2, it's 3x3, but 2x2 on the inside, concrete riser inside the basin. That's got a little 4-inch hole that's above the water quality volume. We're storing double what is required in the BMPs. And then for a large storm, it will enter to the top of that basin and discharge out. So a plunge pool is water is going through a pipe. What you want to do is you want to slow that water down before it discharges. So that goes into a riprap. What we do is we submerge the end of the pipe in the pool. It slows the water down so that it can level out and flow out off the riprap and not cause erosion during the discharge. And then the fourth is there's a riprap discharge on each one, just as a belt and suspenders approach, so that we don't get a failure of the bank. You don't want to get a failure. So if something happened to the structure and it clogged, or for some reason it would overflow through this riprap. Again, it's sized to pass a very large storm.
Okay, the next question is, you're using the term, and I've been involved with manufacturing for a long time, I don't know what a laydown is. What's
Okay,
laydown? You keep using that.
These propellers are large.
I know, I've seen
Right?
them.
Yeah, so they're as tall as I am for one blade. So if they come in an assembly, what they do is they put it on the ground to store it. So So they call it a laydown. That's a term that Rolls-Royce uses in-house.
So it's an outside storage area?
Outside storage area
Okay,
for parts.
okay.
That's correct.
okay, so I'm still confused about how the water gets into these basins. This detail doesn't show enough information of how the water from wherever it's coming from gets into the basin, so.
It's just sheet flowing from the parking lot.
Yeah.
There's sheet flowing off the pavement, and then there's a little piece of riprap going down into the forebay.
Mhm.
But isn't there like a Cape Cod curb around this?
Yes, that,
So it has to
that,
pop-
that's to direct it.
You show
and then
us on the
there's-
plan so everybody can
Yep.
see it, please.
Sorry. The curbing here, water here is going, sheet flow, hits the curbing, flows along the curb, and then there's a break in the curb,
Okay,
and then it flows through that break over the riprap into the pond. It's basically a simple system. We were kind of constrained between the existing slab and the groundwater. We only had so much distance, so this is how we had to engineer to make everything work.
And you have a street sweeping program?
Yes, that's in the O&M manual. Twice a year street sweeping program to again, get everything before it gets into the stormwater basins.
okay.
Anything else, Al?
No,
So you're not doing any treatment of the water coming off the parking lot, parking areas?
The four bays are the pre-treatment, and then the infiltration bases do the rest of the treatment. So it's 85 or 90% TSS removal.
TSS, what about oils and stuff that gets dropped on the pavement?
This was not a high hazard classification because it's not intense parking. And the parts that are there are cleaned before they're stored there.
Think more of what comes off whatever cars are parked in that area. You've got, is that parking,
There's additional parking in this area here.
right,
Yes. So that water, according to the stormwater manual, is treated in the four bays before it gets into the infiltration basin.
yeah, they'll take care of your suspended solids, but what about any oils or grease or whatever from the pavement? And does that, behind the parking, behind the existing building, which way is that draining?
The divide line is about here. So this portion is going this way and ends up going treated. This other portion goes where the existing is sheet flowing off the site this way.
Is there any issue with that from,
Well,
um,
I don't think it's
engineer?
necessarily required under the stormwater regulations to, you mean like putting skimmers, because in catch basins, you
yeah.
can put skimmers, but there's no catch basins, it's just sheet flow to,
This is a low-intensity parking application, not like a shopping
You
mall. or
satisfied with that?
I'm satisfied with that.
Okay. Okay. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Please identify yourself for the record, please. Any comments? Okay with closing the hearing then?
I think that's fine. I can talk to Carl tomorrow and, we can get any revisions that were made before, actually, issuing the order. So I think it's okay to close the hearing.
Okay, so we want to move, let's close the hearing.
so moved.
Second?
Any further discussion? And we're going to write the order based on your review with Carl.
Yep, pretty standard. We do like to attach the O&M to the order of conditions, so it's recorded, yeah, at the registry of deeds.
To make that,
Yep, and I included, my comment was, I think in your document, it said that you would send us the, or that they would do the review of the stormwater checklist, but that should come to Concom.
submission.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I guess you guys don't have any specific
Anything else we need to add?
orders.
Okay, someone move that we, for the order as noted.
Second.
Further discussion, all in favor? Aye, opposed, abstained, 500. Okay.
Was that approval of the order of conditions?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we just need to confirm with the town engineer and get any revisions to the calculation tomorrow.
Great, good. Thank you.
A small set of plans.
Oh, no, I think Jack has a.
This is Rolls Royce. Or Rolls Royce. What's this one? This is Bright View, New Pond Village.
Is that it?
This is Rolls Royce.
Okay. That's New Pond Village.
What are we doing next?
New Pond Village, yeah,
Okay,
1199.
this
There
is
you go.
Rolls
I can take
Royce.
that.
Town of Walpole amendment to the order of conditions. The Conservation Commission public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act. Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Notice is hereby given the intent. P.H. Brightwood New Pond Village LLC, care of Benchmark Senior Living. Amend the approved order of conditions, DP number 3151199. Minor changes to the addition of 39 independent living units. 2 existing 3-story building and relocation of existing parking area and driveway. The construction of 4 cottage-style buildings containing a total of 8 independent living units located at 160, 170, and 180 Main Street, Walpole. Plans are on file with the Conservation Commission Office. Public hearing in the above matter will be held in Walpole Town Hall, 125 School Street, September 25th, 2019, beginning 7:30 p.m. All interested persons present. Present time is now 7:58. Comments from other boards? Planning Board, we are in receipt of requests for comments and a reference application. However, there are no planning comments at this time. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. Board of Health. Board of Health, September 17th meeting voted unanimously to reiterate comments previously made, strongly opposed to new construction within the 100-foot buffer zone, add their concerns regarding mosquito-borne illnesses, including Triple E and West Nile, which are more prevalent in wetland areas. The board does not have a concern regarding the proposed 3-story addition to an existing building. Would like to encourage that recycling services are provided if not already planned. Okay, Finance Department, everything's current. Board of Appeals. Project was already approved by ZBA and is currently not before the board for anything further that needs to be addressed at this moment, if we have no further comments. From the town engineer. Comments from former town engineers review provided previously to the commission dated March 11th, 19, appear to have been addressed. In particular, engineering departments witnessed soil tests in the proposed drainage area and found them to be very suitable for infiltration and in harmony with the assumption made in the design. Attached, please find a summary of changes to the site plan which were copied from the booklet noted above. Are satisfied with the changes and note that increased storage is provided in infiltration system 1 at the north part of the site to compensate for increased impervious area created by the wider access loop road. And, foundation under drains and any collection system, discharges, etc. should be shown on the plans. Okay. Representing the applicant?
Good evening, Ms. Hershey, commissioners, public. My name is Devin Ward. I'm with Bowler Engineering here on behalf of Benchmark Senior Living. With me, I have Ms. Hilver, our land use attorney, and I apologize for Jim Bernardino, our project manager, who was the face you saw when we last were here for the original notice of intent filing, which was closed back in May of this year. Just to reintroduce you to the project, we're talking about the Benchmark Senior Living Facility called New Pond Village, located to the north of Main Street in the corner
These are actually the
of Bullard Street. The project again proposes to install, in addition to their existing building, some additional parking for their new residents and associated staff with that addition, and 4 cottage buildings at the northern side of the property around the existing access road. This project was already reviewed and permitted through the Zoning Board of Appeals, Planning Board, and we have received a order of conditions issued from June 19th of this year. However, we had not closed with the Planning Board at the time the conservation hearing was closed. And since that time, during the Planning Board process, we received comments from the fire department. Specifically, they requested that we increase the width of the existing access road around the perimeter of the building to a continuous 20-foot width, which is actually required to comply with Massachusetts state fire codes for a 20-foot unobstructed width for emergency access. We had previously not proposed to alter the existing access road, but since improvements are being made, the fire department requested that we upgrade the access road.
And the amendment is on the sheet that was handed out just a few minutes ago, just to let you know. The sheet you had before was the whole plan set that was approved last time.
So, the reason we are here before you again this evening is to accommodate the fire department's request. The widened access road requires us to increase a small amount of disturbance area, both within the 100-foot buffer zone associated with the bordering vegetated wetlands, as well as a small amount of disturbance within the 25-foot no disturb buffer, which had not previously been disturbed. We had avoided any alterations within the no disturb buffer with our previously approved plan set. However, again, the addition widening the access road is requiring us to disturb a small amount of area within the 20-foot buffer zone at the northwest end of the property. We took a look at several options to minimize the alterations and the impacts to the buffer zones for this request. We were able to widen the pavement towards the building along the western access road until we get to a point where we're constrained by an existing outdoor pedestrian area and a retaining wall, which required us to extend the pavement out to the west, pushing these towards the buffer zones. And I'll get more into that in a second. Along the northern portion of the property, we widened the pavement towards the proposed cottages and not towards the building in that area. Doing so, we did not create any additional disturbance in that area. To minimize impacts to the buffer zones, with the area within the 25-foot no disturb buffer zone that we are unfortunately going to have to impact. We're proposing to use reinforced concrete grass pavers, an example of which is in front of you. Those allow us to not really create impervious area within the buffer zone, allow water to infiltrate, but still provide a stable enough surface for the fire department's emergency apparatus to traverse it if necessary. We chose the concrete reinforced pavers rather than similar plastic-based grass paver grid systems, as because this is an emergency access road, we want to make sure that it stands the additional weight of fire trucks and emergency apparatus. The overall, we're proposing to increase the impervious coverage of the site since the approved plans by 0.081 acres. And to compensate for that, we've added an additional water quality unit on the northern side of the site near the cottages, which is actually capturing 0.15 acres of existing impervious area that was previously not treated under the existing conditions. We're capturing that, putting it through a Contech Vort Sentry hydrodynamic separator, and routing that to the proposed underground infiltration system that we're proposing adjacent to the new cottage buildings. We've increased the size of that underground system to accommodate for the increased flows, and by doing so, we're increasing infiltration on the site and not producing an increase in peak discharges for stormwater leaving the site in every sign storm. So we are here to politely request an amended order of conditions given the changes and the alterations within the associated jurisdictional areas.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions you have.
Landis?
So just the handout, grading drainage plan A, 10, 11, and 12. So the red area is the road, and the filled red area is the expanded road section. I don't know if you don't have a large plan, but you see there where they have to expand the road in order to the fire truck in, and then plan 11 in red, you can also see where the road is being expanded and where this here is the infiltration unit that you're expanding in blue.
That's a
Yep.
proposed, previously a 12-chamber storm tech underground system. We've increased that to 20 chambers to accommodate the increased runoff we're directing towards it.
And on plan 12, the last sheet, you need to put a retaining wall at one point in the road where that's where the pavers are as well
Yes,
too,
so that
where it goes
retaining
red
wall-
and green and then the black.
That's correct. That retaining wall, we're proposing to minimize the amount of impact into the 25-foot no disturb required by putting in a low retaining wall to support the grass pavers in that area. We're proposing about a 40-foot long section of concrete block wall. It'll be between 1 and 3 feet, and that allows us to save 6, 7, 8 feet of further disturbance into the buffer zone that we need to grade out that area without the presence of a wall.
And I'm not sure if I saw a detail or a cross-section of the wall, so with the
It would be a
height and
typical,
construction.
it would be a typical Versalock block wall, similar, you can probably see them all over town. They're the small concrete blocks.
Yep.
They're modular. It's gonna range between 1 and 3 feet in height at the max.
So if there's not a detail in your plan set, there should be. Just the base you're gonna use, the height, the specification that it's a concrete stack wall. Sometimes those concrete stack walls are proposed, and then later on it becomes this rock wall that's
It
fit
is-
together, so
It is
just wanna make sure
called
the
out as-
specifications are
It
in
is
the
called
plan.
out as such, the specific product is called out, referred to on
And the
site
base
plan,
and the height.
on the revised sheets. And in the grading sheet, on sheet 12, notes the top and bottom of wall elevations and delineates the
Okay, yeah, it's so hard to see right here. Okay, great.
proposed Versalock
Yep,
segmental block
I can see
retaining
it.
wall. Sorry for.
That's okay.
for you,
I know when you submitted the whole roll, so it was a huge plan, and that's why I asked for this, because it's hard to go through the whole set of plans and look for the new stuff, so that's why.
Certainly, so the specific product that we're requiring is noted on the plans, and the heights are denoted on the grading sheet.
Okay.
I'm all set.
Doug?
I assume in the wintertime you have to plow this to keep access for the fire department to get on
That's
this,
correct, this unobstructed
And-
emergency access way needs to be maintained.
and that doesn't create any problems having to plow the pervious surface there.
It does not, that's why we chose the concrete option. They have a lot of cheaper products out there. If you've ever seen them, they're plastic mesh that accomplishes a similar purpose and actually infills better so that you don't even notice that it's like a black concrete, black plastic rings.
Mhm.
We went away from that option because this area, one, needs to be plowed, and two, is gonna be subject to the higher vehicle loads, presumably of ambulances and fire truck
Yeah.
apparatus. So that's why we went with the concrete one, which will better stand up to paving and the additional weights.
Anything else, Roger?
Well, there's no question that fire trucks are getting bigger, wider, and longer, and heavier. And, I'm glad that, that's being done. I'm wondering about some of the circles or that the cul-de-sacs that they have to go through, but you don't have any of those, I don't believe. But, I am concerned about the runoff into the pond, new pond, in the wetland there as before. And, but you put in some more, infiltration.
That's correct. While we are increasing the impervious area from the previously approved plan set that was closed on in May, our additional water quality unit will actually capture almost double the amount of impervious area from what we're adding. We're adding 0.08 acres, and we're now capturing and creating an additional 0.15 acres of area of the northeast side of the site, which was previously sheet flowing, discharging right into the wetlands uncontrolled. So we're actually improving upon the existing condition to compensate for the need to add additional impervious elsewhere on the property.
I'm really fascinated by this here. And, so, how much of the water, rainwater, surface water, actually goes through? It looks like it's quite a bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Certainly, it looks to me like it would work a lot better than some of these other, infiltration covers that get covered over.
Absolutely, and because of the open cell design of the reinforced concrete pavers, there's large void spaces, as you can see, where the grass grows through. There's an engineered design subbase, it's detailed in the full plan set, of the crushed stone layers beneath that allows for rapid infiltration of runoff.
What is the diameter, or what is the surface area?
Of the open area,
Yeah,
let me check my detail real quick. It varies by product, but they're typically 2 to 3 inch openings on the between the concrete sections.
yeah. It looks like it's equal to the pavement.
Just about, yes.
I think some places they require them for their driveways. Communities like that.
Anything else, Roger?
Now, I am,
Betsy?
No comment.
Al?
No comment.
Anybody in the audience have any questions or comments, please identify yourself for the record. Okay, so we'll make a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Further discussion, all in favor? Aye, opposed, abstained, 500. And did we approve, someone make a motion that we approve the amendment as requested?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Further discussion, all in favor? Aye, opposed, abstained, 500. Good, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time this evening.
I think we're all set. There's really no update to the O and M or anything because the infiltrators were already included.
Correct.
Yeah, so.
I have the green cards for you. if you'd like to-
Oh, yeah, you can give me those to Amy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Still gotta mow it.
That's what I think. I guess you got a mother. I listened to driven on so much, but that's
Sorry.
What do we got now?
Secretary gets mad when I.
Wall Street Development. Not too bad. Should we close on that?
I'm in favor of it.
Town of Walpole Conservation Commission, notice of intent, public hearing. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Wetlands Protection Act, I hereby given the intent of Wall Street Development, for construction of a 36-unit condominium development including 7 buildings, access drives, utilities, related site improvements located at Burns Avenue, map 20, lots 119, 136, 137. Plans are filed at Conservation Commission Office. Public hearing on the above matter will be held in Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, April 10th, 2019, beginning at 7:15 p.m. All interested persons are requested to be present. Time is now 8:15. What do we got here? This new from Water Department?
What's it stamped on? I think it's just reiteration of the same comments.
September 24th, that's after our last meeting, wasn't it?
That was yesterday, yeah.
That would be, yes. This is from the Water and Sewer, Board of Water and Sewer. Dated February 24th. The board stands by the comments they made in the memo dated August 13th, which is attached regarding the above subject with no additional comments. That was on August 13th. We would have read this in, right? Okay. It just references prior comments on this area, so. Okay, representing the applicant.
Hi. It's been a long day.
Identify yourself, please, for the
Lou
record.
Petrosi from Wall Street Development Corp.
Okay.
We're here tonight to continue our conversation that we started last meeting regarding the certain revisions that we made to the plan. We also submitted additional information regarding plantings and other restoration activities that we were proposing in the riverfront area that was requested of us. So you have that information that was submitted, and I think at the last meeting, Commission wanted more time to digest the plans, the revised plans that we had submitted, since they were only had a few days to look at them prior to the last meeting, so we're essentially looking for feedback from the Commission.
Okay, did you want to make any comment on this, what is this, supplement D that was just submitted in your letter, text letter of September 13th?
Well, supplemental sheet D essentially outlines the restoration and planting program that we've proposed within the riverfront area that is directly underneath the, or on top of where the utilities are being constructed, the sewer and water coming up from Union Street. And then we have a planting program or restoration program for the degraded area that is previously identified on the plan.
Okay,
More specific than was previously presented to the commission, so there's details on types of plants, quantities of plants, sizes of plants, and other grading issues that were previously, previous information that was requested by the commission.
okay. And Landis?
So what was submitted was a supplement D with more detail on the restoration areas for the riverfront restoration and both the, where the water and sewer was gonna go, additional information on that. I think we did want also in the same notes to include what materials would be going when the waste material was taken out of the buffer zone area. So the idea is to take out the concrete and foreign material, put back something that is not spec'd on the plan, and then the 6 inches of topsoil. So it's the same thing as the other areas. You don't have a spec for putting back material after you take out the man-made waste material.
Well, I think we're, it's clean fill material, that's what we would be bringing in. We're not gonna bring back in unsuitable material that we're taking out junk and replacing it with clean material.
Right, so
So I don't know what kind of spec you want to put on that. It's just clean borough is what it really.
anything but nothing. You don't spec anything right now. So
Okay,
you're
well-
taking out the waste material, and again, you're putting down 6 inches of topsoil. So even though you're showing grades, it's the same thing when you do anything. We want to know the specs.
Well, we'll add a note to the plan to give us more specific detail on that.
And so just for talking about the plan, again, also, I think I mentioned it to Rob, is that supplement D is really a revision of supplement C, which has the same information on it, but less. So.
We thought it was better to be more specific and supplement
Give double
C-
information on the plans.
Yeah, C had a lot of stuff on it, a lot of details on it, so,
The only reason I did that was
In the
because
same name.
I just didn't want to start up a new, I just wanted to submit something separate of the set of plans that we have. If this goes forward and the commission would like this incorporated, I would give a full revision of plans with a revised date on every sheet, and we could just drop supplemental D and incorporate it into supplemental C. If this goes forward, that's all. I don't have any issue with
Yep,
that.
I
I'm just trying
understand.
not to submit a full set of plans every time I make a
Right.
revision on one sheet. So I was just trying to separate it from the plan set, that's all.
Okay.
Understood. So we also talked somewhere, and I mean, the commission has brought up pretty consistently of not wanting activity within the area of the riverfront area that's not degraded. So that's sort of an outstanding issue. And then I'm just going to go through my notes, and you can make comments afterwards, just for the commission's sake. So that was one of the issue that, even with the previous filing, that was one of the things that the commission talked about, is taking out the activity in the riverfront area that's not altered and put all the activity in the area which is altered, rather than restoring it afterwards. And then there's the issue of the degraded area. So the consultant's interpretation, which I know we've gone over, but I'm just rehashing the interpretation of the consultant of the degraded area versus the applicant's decision on the degraded area. So since you kind of opted not to provide the commission with additional information of what is degraded and what is not degraded, but stuck with the 13,000 plus square feet of degraded, which you're working in part of it and you're restoring part of it. So the commission needs to look at that and make a determination if the applicant has submitted enough information for that designation. The stormwater management system, I don't think there was any other issues on that. I think the consultant and the commission and I were all pretty much happy what was done with that, with the stormwater coming off the cul-de-sac and going into the basin. I think we just would need additional soil test on this infiltration system, but that could be conditioned. It's not a biggie. I think that's pretty much it. As far as my
Okay.
comments.
Doug, any questions?
Yeah,
comments?
just a simple question. The reference to the 1 gallon container, that's the root ball for these plants?
Yeah, they come in a.
Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to see if I understood that. That's it.
Okay. Roger?
Pass, but I reserve the right to comment later.
Okay. Betsy?
Could I ask for a clarification of something that came up last meeting with your consultant? There seem to be two different ways of approaching degraded riverfronts. Can you review those from your point of view?
I don't think Paul was saying there's two different ways to approach it. I think he was saying how he interprets the regulations, and he was saying it was pretty defined. You know, absence of topsoil was his claim.
Oh, I meant something
So
else.
I think what we have is a difference of opinion between your consultant, what they believe is degraded, and what Paul believes is degraded. So I don't think we're ever gonna, those two are gonna, no matter how much more testing, we did more testing, I don't think they were going to agree on that, because they're interpreting the definition differently.
I
Paul's
think,
reading it physically, and they're saying they're interpreting it in their own way. So that's the argument. Is
I meant something else.
you meant 10.58G,
Yes.
which is
Yes.
which is what he's not here, so it's a little
he's
hard.
not
But
here.
I think
Sorry.
what he was saying was you can take an area, the riverfront area, and say that you're going to improve it, and that's what the restoration is. That's how they're handling the restoration under 10.58G. That the commission can say, well, it's not degraded, but it's bad enough that we can improve it.
So that's another way of approaching
Improving a
it.
riverfront area and not calling it altering. That's what my
But
interpretation
he did
of
present
what
that
he
in
was
his
saying.
last submittal.
It's part of the redevelopment 10.58 something G, yeah, if you go down
You should know
several.
that by heart. We've said it so many times.
There's another number in there, so you can take an area, the riverfront area, which you consider needing improvement, and improve it.
Does that
So
help, Betsy?
Oh, well, I guess for the moment, yeah.
Anything else?
No, not at the moment.
Al?
Okay, I was not here for the last meeting, and according to the regulations, I watched every minute of the meeting on the computer. And most of the discussion I could follow. And there was one thing that I asked for at the previous meeting, which still hasn't been discussed and a detail shown on any plan. I looked at every page of the plan, and that is my major concern. I don't care about these buildings as such. The stormwater system is fine, but there's no detail and explanation of how you can install these two pipes right next to the brook without demolishing the brook and having the brook end up flowing in the trench. And I don't see a detail anywhere that explains and shows how you can do that.
There is a detail on supplemental sheet B.
We also did submit a construction sequence as well you had requested a construction sequence. And we
Here's
did
something.
Top left corner. But that's what we provided. Showing a section through the area, showing the brook, showing the pipes, showing the erosion control limits.
And there isn't anything there that prevents the brook from collapsing into the trench.
On the beginning
Well,
part of
we're
it,
using trench boxes there.
But a trench box, you have to dig a huge hole and then lower the big iron structure into the hole.
Correct.
Okay, when you're digging the hole, what's to prevent it from collapsing in and the brook ending up in the hole?
well, actually, that's not the way it's done. It's, you put the you start and you put your trench box in the trench. And as you excavate within the confines of the trench box, you're not digging a big hole that's twice as wide as the trench. You're digging a trench, and the trench box gets pulled along.
I've seen the trench box used many times.
Right, well,
And I still don't see how that's going to prevent this brook from collapsing into the trench.
are you concerned about the entire length of the stretch along the
No,
brook? or
I'm
just-
concerned about where the brook makes a bend
Right.
into the
Show the section.
area where you're going to install the pipe.
So
That's all I'm concerned about.
Understood, and we're concerned as well. I mean, obviously, we don't want to cause a problem, but we did get permission from the Sewer and Water Commission to move
I see that,
things closer, so we're 5 feet
Yeah.
further away.
yeah.
And, I think that with the way the trench boxes work, the sewer is deeper than the water. So the sewer will go in first, be backfilled, then there'll be another trench for the water to go in, and that trench box will be 5 feet in the ground. The water is only four feet in the ground. So it's not like we're digging a 10-foot deep trench and it's compromising the bank at all. And quite honestly, it's only about a straightaway of about 30 feet, so.
Yeah, it's
It's two
small,
lengths.
but,
It's two
But
lengths of
it-
pipe. It's 2 lengths of pipe.
yeah,
That's what we're
okay.
talking about.
And I understand that. And I just want to make sure that the contractor that has this job is not going to end up with the brook in the trench.
Would it be helpful if we required that be supervised by someone
One thing.
while that
Whatever,
construction
yeah.
is taking place?
The bank of the brook, you've been there, right? It's a fieldstone banking. It's not a natural bank. It's been built that way as a fieldstone. The bank is fieldstone.
That's
So,
right, yeah.
So we're not talking about something that can't be brought back to the condition that it's in today. It's fieldstone that can just be re-stacked. In the event of a failure of some sort, it just gets rebuilt the way it's built today. We'll take photographs and make sure that it's protect. But it's not a natural bank, it's a man-made trench.
I'm
basically.
sure it's been altered
So-
over the last 200 years.
Yeah, so, I mean, you're holding us responsible for
So
something
that's-
that's man-made.
That's my only concern with this project at this point, is to make sure that we don't have a disaster there that could have been prevented by
You know, we're
proper
perfectly
planning.
happy with, having on-site, town engineer or paying for an outside engineer to supervise the construction during that stretch of, activity. I mean.
To me, that's what's important.
Okay, if you wanna make that a condition of the, approval, I have no objections to having
Okay,
inspections,
okay,
or having somebody on site to monitor it.
that's fine.
Anything else, Now?
No?
Okay.
I wanna just bring up one other thing that we've, had a discussion about, Landis and I and Rob. We've talked about the concern that was raised at one of the previous meetings about, not building in areas that are non-degraded versus utilizing the area that's already been, determined to be degraded or disturbed. So we came up with a different concept of laying out the buildings that would essentially shift the last, if you look on your revised plan, you'll see that there's one unit on the left-hand side that is still inside the riverfront, the undegraded portion of the riverfront. So by changing the number of units in the first two buildings, we're able to shift the shift the portion of the building that was in the undegraded portion of the riverfront and essentially moving that unit over into the degraded portion, which where it was originally when we discussed this project in the last order of conditions.
So I drew this up today. You gave me a call, and I spoke with Lawrence about it this morning. And I think it was a conversation that we had. And what I did was I took, in your plan there, you have 3 buildings on this side. I think there's 13 units in total. So I brought it back to 2 buildings with a total of 12 units. So I was able to reduce a unit plus the space between some of the buildings, so I pulled it back. And it completely takes the grading on this end out of the non-degraded riverfront area. There's still this portion that is non-degraded, where the cul-de-sac is. And then I put the extra unit on the end of this, went from a 4 to a 5, which is on your plan, and pushed the grading out, which reduced, obviously, the non-degraded, the degraded area that was going to be restored. So the numbers change, in which the area that's non-degraded will go down to 2,400 square feet, which is this piece in here. From I believe it's 4,900 on your supplemental sheet B. Or B, I think the numbers are on sheet B.
Yep.
So it's 4,900, so that goes down to 24. And then the area to be restored goes down to 2,880, so like 2,900 square feet of restored area, which is this piece, which would come around here. And I guess it kind of goes back to what you had said at the previous meeting, about getting out of the non-degraded area and working in the area that's already being torn up, so to speak. I didn't submit this yet, I just brought this with me tonight, and I'd be happy to leave it with you. Obviously, if this was more favorable, we would come back, I'd probably do a full revision of all the plans, because all the buildings change, obviously. All the sheets are gonna change, and then I would put this through the whole plan set. Doesn't change the drainage, that's all still the same. It's really just building.
Okay, based on that,
Do we have to have more comments now?
well,
That we've seen
I
something
think,
new?
we've seen, I would say, Doug, you have any questions at this point regarding this issue?
No.
Okay, Roger, Betsy?
Oh, well, I like that effort has been made to pull things out of,
It sounds, as first presented, I think it sounds like an improvement, but I don't know if there's anything else when you look at the whole picture,
Oh.
whether we'd make that same comment after looking at everything involved. But I think it's a step that sounds worthwhile considering. Al, you have anything else?
No, I think it's going in the right direction, but
Okay.
as I said, my only hang-up is on making sure that the brook doesn't collapse into the
Right.
So,
Okay.
so what does that increase your work in the so-called degraded area?
So
It
that's like
it ups the
10,000.
square footage from,
So this is the redevelopment area, so that would go up to 10,007. The non-degraded is 2410. And then the restoration will be 2880. So it's obviously a lot more of the area that's disturbed. I mean, and then you're not getting as much, you're not getting as much, I don't know, restoration over there. And you had said something about a corridor. I wasn't sure what you meant that. Was that up here?
I meant that I like the fact that there was there could be a connection from Pickerel Brook to the Trappled Brook side,
I think that, you mean,
which
that's
was
here.
natural.
Yeah, so this is, in your planting plan, this is all planted with trees, and then this is, so that corridor would still remain, I guess. It's a little smaller
This is the one that is-
right through here, but it's not any larger over here anyway, so you're still getting pretty much the same corridor.
And the planting plan that you have here would
Get
be
amended.
smaller, but it would be
Correct.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, we would reduce the planting plan. The ones along the buffer though would stay, and obviously the ones within the water and sewer work area would stay. Yeah, so we would revise this planting for this area.
You need some time to review this and see what the total effect is when you're looking at the.
No, I was actually
The whole
reviewing the
picture.
act, the 10.58, since I didn't bring the book down. I was looking at it on my phone, that's why I'm looking at it.
Okay, at this point, thank you. We'll open it up to the audience, and if you have any questions or comments, please identify yourself for the record. Okay. This, what you just showed us is what you want to propose.
Well, yeah, I think, Mr. Chairman, if this is felt by the commission to be an improvement on, and more appropriate along the lines of what the commission was looking for, we'd be happy to make a formal submittal and continue the meeting till the next session,
Okay.
so that the commission will be able to review it.
I think we need to look at it, look at the whole thing. Some of what sounds good, I don't know if the whole thing sounds good or not, and Landis needs to look this over. So I think it's a good idea
When is
to
your next
continue.
meeting?
October 9th. Right now, we have a 7 o'clock.
We have a 7:15 and 7:20.
We do? Oh, I got the wrong one here.
I think 7:10.
So we have a 15?
Yeah, and a 7:30.
Okay, so what's on here? What is it? What's a 7:15?
Old Town Road, known as Old Town, I think it's a garage addition. 7:13 is
Is that 7:30 or 7:13, you say? 7:30?
7:30.
7:30,
I
and what is that?
13.
Oh, sorry, but
What is that?
that's a amendment to an existing order for Lot 2 Lost Brook Trail.
That's just an amendment?
They want to revise the design of the culvert crossing.
All right, so we make it at 7:45.
Sure.
What was the date again? I'm sorry.
On October 9th. Okay, someone want to make that motion to continue this until 7:45 on October 9th?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Well, what? You're going,
I was just gonna ask that if before, because anything that we submit here, we eventually have to revise all the plans and go to the Board of Appeals with them as well. So, if can narrow the discussion down to this supplemental sheet, is that appropriate just to submit that one sheet for the commission to review rather than,
no, the whole thing is open.
no, do you want
We do the whole
10
thing.
10 more sets of 14 pages?
Yeah.
You can make them small. You don't have to make them the
How many
gigantic.
sets you want?
That's right.
What do you need for,
You mean for a submission for the,
For the revision.
it's just the one sheet showing the revision?
That's what I'm asking,
Yeah.
yes. And then if the commission
Yeah,
approves
and
that.
then once you're set on what you want the commission to close on, then we need the full final set of documents that go with that.
That's what I was asking, because it's
Yeah.
14
yeah.
sheets of,
We already have so much volume that it's hard to keep track of what's old and what's new, and
we'll go to that, the October 9th, and give you the plans ahead of time, and you'll have a chance to review them, and then the commission is accepting those plans, that revision, then we'll submit a complete set with all revisions on it and submit it to the commission and to the zoning board at the same time.
okay, so that's, we had motion made and seconded for continuing this till 7:45 on October 9th. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Okay, so we're on for October 9th at 7:45.
We'll drop those off tomorrow.
Yeah, you need to get stuff in as soon as you
Tomorrow,
can.
plans on.
Yeah,
Tomorrow.
okay.
can't you keep the restoration area the same? So can't you keep the restoration area the same?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We're cranking, let's go. What?
Okay, where's the stormwater to read? Stormwater,
Do we have one?
stormwater.
Amy, is it on here?
What?
The file for the stormwater?
Yeah, it's right in the front.
It's right in
It's in the front.
the skinny, I can't get up there.
It's the only skinny file I have.
No, we used to have the plans and everything.
Town of Walpole Conservation Commission. Notice by giving the Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing for the purpose of gathering public comment. Revisions to the stormwater erosion control bylaw regulations, Walpole Wetland Protection Bylaw regulations. Public hearing, the above matter will be held at Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, Walpole, Mass., June 26, 2019, beginning 7:30 PM. All interested person requests to be present. Hearing's been opened and continued. Anybody here for that?
No.
Okay.
What's this guy here for?
1900 Main Street.
Oh, okay.
I actually think that you should close the hearing because I think that, after doing more research and talking to a couple of people, I think most communities are not moving on these revisions yet, and waiting for DEP stormwater standards and handbook to be revised with these requirements.
Okay. So we close the hearing and
I
just
would
wait
say close the
till we get
hearing and
more-
wait, because I talked to DEP, I talked to our consultant, and I talked to a couple other people and asked if any other communities were revising at this point, even though you're supposed to do it at year 2. I think everyone is pretty much waiting, thinking that DEP is going to revise their stormwater handbook, and if that's the case, then our bylaw already references the stormwater handbook as it is revised, so we need to cover it in that direction.
Someone make that a motion?
I'll move that.
We got a second?
I just want to clarify something.
Yes.
From what I read and what I just heard you say, I think there's a little typo perhaps.
That's
We're talking,
possible.
we're talking about your report 1.5.
Not.
Yeah, the word "not" is missing.
Okay, there you go.
Other communities are not moving forward.
And what did I say, are moving forward?
It just says are
Right,
moving forward.
sorry, that is,
Yeah.
yes, my typo.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So we got a,
That's you.
Some-
That's you.
I
you moved
seconded.
it?
No,
Do we
you moved
need a
it.
second?
Okay.
Somebody
Second.
second?
Oh, second.
Okay, second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye, opposed, abstained. 500.
Opposed.
401. 410.
You're opposed?
I'm
I wanna know why.
I want it to reflect the Cornell method.
We
Yeah, we
did
did
that,
that.
we took care of that already.
that.
Remember, we voted that in before, so that's done.
It's already done.
Okay, if that's done, then.
It's done, yep,
then I'm
that's
fine
done,
with
and
it.
they've been designing based on the Cornell method.
Okay,
It's
then I'm
the-
fine.
It's the 1 inch and going to 90% TSS removal and those requirements.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good with that. Okay, good.
So, vote again. All in favor? Aye,
Aye.
opposed, abstained.
Okay.
500.
I like that.
Okay. What's this one? You got 1900?
You're here to address the commission on 1900 Main Street? You're here for 1900 Main Street, right? Okay, so, hold on a sec, just wanna make sure.
Town of Walpole Notice of Intent Conservation Commission Public Hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 4 of the Wetlands Protection Act, Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Notice is hereby given the intent of Supercars LLC, the construction of a parking lot and associated stormwater located at 1900 Main Street, Walpole, Mass. Plans are filed with the Conservation Commission Office. Public hearing on the above matter will be held in Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, December 12, 2018, beginning at 9 p.m. All interested persons requested to be present. Hearing's been opened and continued. So, representing the applicant,
I'm sorry, my name is Richard Volken. I'm the engineer representing Super Auto. I sent in a letter, it was supposed to be I'm sure, hopefully it was hand-delivered prior to, we received a notice of extension to come here tonight. What is happening there is that the project is, number one, getting scaled down considerably. That's number one. Number two, they've been having a problem with a contractor putting in a tight tank, and he abandoned the job, and we've had to go through legal procedures. And that, even though that work was being done outside of wetlands area, it's not tied in as yet, and it's supposed to be tied in this week or next week. So we did not want to do anything until that was settled and with the Board of Health's blessing on that situation. We also were doing some survey work out there to check, and it turns out that the grades are different than what the plan reflected, the original plan reflected. It's our position that we do not need to put out any kind of a holding pond or a desilting pond or a discharge pond. The site is not intended to be paved. It's supposed to be just where it is. We have not done any test pits as yet because we want to have the Conservation Commission agent witnessing that work. But until we got that septic tank properly installed with the Board of Health's blessing, there was no sense doing anything, frankly, on anything or touching anything. So it's our intent, as I had a team out there already doing some preliminary surveying, we found that the elevations in some of the areas were different. We ran a HydroCAD program based on the plans that were originally issued and the flows and the information that was submitted, and we personally didn't agree with the numbers. We found that it was a lot less using a 100-year storm in that type of situation. It was our intent initially to put in storm tech units and retain all stormwater on the site for proper drainage, and not touch anything beyond the property line. That's how it was before. So all in all, so what we're doing is, like I said, we're re-getting the elevations, what we feel are the proper elevations. Then we'll have it wetland flagged with those information. Once we get that properly wetland flagged, then we can see how far back scaled they intend to want to be. They don't need all that parking, and they're not going to be doing a U-Haul at storage or anything of that nature that was part of the initial intent that we understood. So that part of it's all gone away. So, but I also told the owner that, listen, you've got to deal with the stormwater on site. And we felt that based on the HydroCAD program at a 100-year storm, and we considered the whole area, by the way, the whole perimeter around the thing is part of a collection. You can do it very well if the percolation rate matches and comes up right, to keep everything on site and subgradient so it discharges appropriately to the groundwater without any pumping equipment, without any filtration equipment. Although they're dealing with automobiles out there, we would have, and it's our intent, that any drain that goes out, any system will have a degreasing, the oil water separation system, so nothing enters the groundwater and contains. That's where we're heading now, and everything, I had to actually stop everything because of this septic tank thing. Seriously, that takes priority on anything. Right now, they're using an out like an outhouse, a Johnny on the spot thing, and that's got to go. That's got to go. So, just to bring you up to date on what it is, where we're going with it, and how fast. Like I said, once the Board of Health blesses that, and once it's hooked up and sealed and blesses that and graded, then we can move ahead hard charging on the rest of the site.
Okay. We appreciate your response. We have been, as you may or may not know, been requesting a response update of what's going on without getting anything in response. So thank you for coming in this evening and filling us in what's going on.
I just received the letter from
Yeah.
about, I'd say a week ago.
Well, after our last meeting, we sent out a letter that we needed
yeah.
something to let us know what's going on. The one thing I would comment on is that in the past, that I would say almost all of the area of that site, the property they own and then some, they have encroached beyond their property line and something, was being utilized for one thing or another. So if you're gonna limit the amount of area that is subject to, what you're gonna wind up with for stormwater treatment, there's gotta be some means that prevents it from expanding the way we have seen it in the past. That they've wound up using, for one thing or another, almost the entire property line, and some, as I said, encroached beyond their property line.
That is exactly one of the, like I said, we weren't part of this in the
Right,
beginning.
right.
But when we walked the site, initially walked the site, I can't speak for what was developed, I really can't.
Right.
There were a number of areas, a number of things that we did not like, and I was very frank with the owner. I mean, just point blank, so, I got no tie to that business or anything like that. I just didn't like what was there and what was operating. I mean, the pie in the sky of adding another building, the possible, accelerating runoff, creating a holding pond with desilting issues off-site just doesn't fly in anybody's conservation commission or any town or any city. I said, no, you can't be doing that, not in this day and age. So the intent is to absolutely minimize any impervious area, number one, but number one, to determine where the real wetlands bounds are. And that will be certified by a wetland specialist, won't mention names. And then we know exactly what it is. I don't want to make any disparity on who did the work previously. I don't know the gentleman or whatnot, but I don't think it was very representative of the site, frankly,
Okay.
or the soils.
Okay.
And so,
Okay, just so I think you understand, and it's, so we're pleased that we are getting a response. But that you need to take that into account. If you're gonna reduce the area, how is it going to be controlled? In other words, it can't be just left open, because what we've seen in the past, the owner just puts whatever different kinds of stuff has shown up at almost every spot on that property. So if it's gonna be an area limited to where this activity is gonna go on, there's gotta be some means to contain it.
Split rail fence they put up.
We want something permanent. A split rail fence is not permanent.
no, I agree that with you 100%. Like I said, I got up and I had a long lecture, a father-son lecture with him.
Good.
It just wasn't going to fly. No, let's be careful. I was on the Concom for Canton for 10 years. I know the situations as they develop. I just had to basically stop everything out there, frankly.
Okay.
And we're intending to replicate. We're going to, after we see where the wetlands flag is, we're going to try to replicate some of the area. It's a little difficult. I can't tell you how much or whatnot yet, because when I get the true picture,
Okay.
yeah.
When you get the okay on the tight tank and the okay from the Board of Health, what are you looking at roughly time-wise to get something back to us as to what you're
Yeah,
gonna propose?
it can be a little ambitious, but my goal is, I have had a team out there 2 or 3 times checking surveys, particularly on the outer points. And that's when we started discovering that the numbers are not matching. So I've told them to get out there, and it's the elevations, that's the problem, not the meets and bounds of the property.
They're lower or higher than they should be?
Well.
Or is it every which way?
No, parts of it are lower and parts of it are higher. It just didn't match the numbers that were on the thing. And which would affect the drainage, the flows, the directions of things, and collections of things. And so I'm hoping that they'll be back out there Monday, and if they can get it all. And I told them to double the elevation locations. I don't want a spot here and a spot here. I want to see contours,
Okay,
actual contours.
Yep.
And then we get a better feel for what's happening out there and what's going on. Just really was,
so you think, as far as our next meeting is, October 9th, that
yeah, I'd
sounds
be
like
glad
it's a
to come
little.
back over. I mean, I live in Canton, so I mean, I'll be glad to come over and give you a progress report at every meeting. My only problem is usually I can't go past 9. I have a nurse watch my wife.
Oh, so let's put him on early.
We
Let's-
could,
we can
for an
talk in between
update,
two.
I don't think you're gonna have all that ready.
I don't think so, but
No.
I'd like to give you a progress report.
Okay, if you can, wanna do that, what we could do is start
between
that
9
at
and
6:55.
That'd be better for
We
me.
have what,
Yeah.
we have
Or
a,
he could just give us a written progress report and put him on for
I can do it written just as easily. Like I said, I reacted as fast as I could to the other one.
okay,
Written would be fine.
then you don't have to,
Okay.
then you wouldn't have to actually come if you get
Oh, I
that.
don't, as long as I get back by 9, that's when the nurse leaves,
But
and I
you're
can't
not-
leave her alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one gets back by 9 around here.
Do you,
I've been through that, I know plenty for,
do you want to come in and tell us, or just send us a written?
either way you desire. I can get it to you by the 9th.
Why don't you give us a written
report?
response
Oh, yeah.
prior to our October 9th meeting, so if we have a question, we can ask Landis. If she's got something, she can get back to you and
Sure.
clarify anything, if that may be the situation.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Then we can set up from that when we could actually come back and review the material that
Sure,
you're
yeah.
you're revising.
It's more of me being stubborn and stinking with what I saw out there and what was going on. And how can you go in front of any commission with something that's not real?
No, we appreciate your candidness here, and that you're actually, sounds like you're making some progress there, because as you know.
The
from
challenge, I
this-
didn't expect the contractor to walk out of the job on the tight
There
tank.
have been a number of issues there on that site. This has been going on with this commission for a long time, even before the present owners were there. There's been issues with that site, so, but I think we certainly appreciate your,
So I'll have something before.
yeah, if you can get this to Landis,
You can put him on for 7 o'clock on October 30th.
and then we'll, our next meeting after that would be October 23rd, right? No, we're
October
not meeting.
30th.
30th.
We're meeting on the 30th.
Halloween?
Oh, that's the 31st.
No, 30.
Oh, is it?
30th.
Sorry.
October 21st is town meeting, I think, or not,
Then I
23rd.
might have a great
So our next
grandchild, so
scheduled
I don't
meeting
need to be.
after the 9th would be October
close.
30th, according to Amy. And we don't have anything scheduled then, so you could put him on for 7
Okay.
o'clock if you wanted to.
So what we can do then is make that at 7
Yeah, that's
on
fine.
October 30th. So that gives you, we want a written report for a meeting on the 9th where things stand, and then we'll put you on at
Yeah, I appreciate it.
7 PM, October 30th. Our normal meeting would be the 23rd, but we have town meeting. We normally meet the 2nd and 4th.
Well, town meeting is in Canton, I forget it.
Well, our normal meeting is the 2nd and 4th Wednesday.
Mhm.
So the 4th Wednesday, we're anticipating will involve town meeting, so we don't have a meeting. So we're doing the week after, because there are
I'll put
5
some, like,
Wednesdays in October.
By then, I probably will have some preliminaries
Yeah,
to
that'll be good.
put up on a fancy board and address
Yeah,
everybody.
Yeah, wherever,
When's town meeting?
if nothing else, update us, whatever, wherever you are, but we want to keep this moving is
Yeah,
what we
no,
like.
I did, you know, but like I said, I gotta get this other thing got legal
We got approved.
to the
Okay.
that contract.
And we apologize for keeping you later, but it's,
Okay,
we
tonight I
realize,
call- I text my daughter to go over
okay,
because the nurse leaves at 9.
okay. I know you were
For some reason,
here,
they're prompt, they just.
I know you were here one other time, but you had to leave because we
Yeah.
had a very
Yeah, I was sitting there.
involved meeting and it just kept
Yeah,
on
I
going and
just-
going, so, thank you.
Yeah, that was a tough night, so I.
Oh, good, thank you.
Okay,
And we'll
thank you
wait
very
to hear
much.
from you with your update.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
okay, October 30th.
I was gonna say, I always thought it was more of a water quality issue than a water quantity issue on
Yeah.
that site.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because it's surrounded by wetlands, so it's not like it's
Right.
okay,
an issue.
we have, are you here just for the,
I was just curious, what was the person here just for, what was the issue, case?
this last gentleman was for 1900 Main Street is the, it's the
Yeah, supercar.
Supercars LLC is the name of the company, and it's trying to get his stormwater treatment system. Yeah. So you're just curious as to,
Well, I came mostly for Burns, to see what they were doing, but,
for Burns Avenue? Oh, okay.
and for you, something popping up before planning board eventually, so, to keep up to date.
Yeah, they, as he said, they have issues, they gotta get a tank approved by the Board of Health, and there's some other issues at that site, so. Okay, well, hope you enjoyed your evening.
Right, yeah.
Okay, on the minutes, I have a minor correction. Under Burns Avenue,
Yes.
page 2, in the middle paragraph, it says, Truax went over revised plans dated 9/14 that depicted reduction in the proposed units from 36 to 34.
32.
That should be 32. So, subject to that, someone want to move the minutes?
I have
You have-
I have 3 other
Okay.
potential typos.
Okay,
I think 2 are pretty minor, but I'll just mention it.
where are you?
Under the 7 PM hearing, the motion carried 500. That should be an open parentheses in front of Wiley. It's the number 9 for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
So minor. And same thing at 7:15, that had the exact same thing. I think the number 9 on the keyboard is right next to parentheses.
Yeah,
So
mine were
those are-
indented here.
Those are minor. This third one,
Are you input?
Well, I just like easier to like, look to be, you know what I mean?
The other one?
this third one might be more significant. Under the 8:10 PM hearing, maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong here, but Hershey, halfway down, Hershey suggested a condition to now allow any discharging directly into the wetlands.
Not,
That should be not.
unless you want to change it.
So that's a significant typo.
Better find it.
Yeah, it's like.
A little bit more than halfway down.
On 810?
Yeah.
I found it.
I found it. It's the second Hershey. Hershey pops out for me.
It would.
Okay,
You find it?
not yet.
Yeah, good catch.
Look at the side, it says suggested.
The 10th line down.
Okay. Okay.
Where it says suggested, just go
So
over.
just the
Yeah.
condition not to allow.
Change now to not.
I got it. Okay, subject to those revisions, so I want to move the minutes.
I'll move them.
Do a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain, 401. Good.
So you thought that Patriots Tavern might come?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's been going on quite a while, isn't it?
What do you think's going on?
I'm not sure. I guess they need to be. They need to be told that they need to address it or they're going to be fined.
Okay, you want to let them know about that?
Yes, I will.
If we don't get, have them show up and tell
Yep.
us what they're doing, that we will issue a fine.
Trees they cut down at Patriots Tavern. They cut trees near the wetlands.
Yeah. Well,
Boyden Estates, Landis and I went to the court. The court basically told Mr. Petrosi he had a fine to pay. And, that was basically it. The court magistrate wasn't interested in hearing any, input from Mr. Petrosi other than tell him to pay the fine. So we expect that he will probably appeal whatever means he uses to do that. So it's still,
There is
Not
no
to say-
appeal. There is no appeal.
there's no appeal.
No. No, that's what he was saying. He was going to appeal, and she said there is no appeal. There is no appeal.
Okay, so we'll see
There's
what happens.
Criminal complaint.
He has, I guess, certain time to pay the court, which would then pay the town. And if he doesn't, I guess then, I don't know what they do
File
next.
criminal-
They
criminal-
file a criminal complaint?
We file.
We do. Okay, so how, do we have any idea on timing?
Well, the town, remember, we spoke, town council was gonna draft a letter and send it to him, give him 10 days. But
Okay,
she didn't do that yet. But the court did send her a letter stating what he is required to do, and she was gonna email that to me. I spoke with her today.
okay.
so if a person has a fine outstanding, does that hold up other projects, or is that separate?
Not, we asked that question, and basically, we can't do it on Burns Avenue because Burns Avenue is just under the state. So it's not, the town bylaw doesn't apply.
Ah,
So even if we wanted to, wanted to look at it. And this is a little different, so
Right,
basically
it's
she
not
said
just a fine.
not to hold up anything else. I think that was right?
Right, because it was a fine and not a tax or
Yeah.
not a charge.
So, so that's story. There's nothing, he hasn't done anything on the site. And you were gonna write to the homeowner, let him know that there was,
Right, and I did do that, and I didn't hear anything back from them, but
okay, and request, did you request a certificate of compliance if he's done with the site?
did I tell him?
Yeah,
No, but I will.
okay. Basically, the people are living there. These
Well, they
things
own
he's
it.
done.
They
They have
actually
none
own
living
it.
there, then they own it.
Yes,
right.
they do. I looked and found the deed on the registry of deeds, so.
So we're gonna ask for a certificate of compliance in which he's then gotta finish up the stuff that he hasn't done. See what happens. What else we got here? Request certificates, none of those. Yeah. We got board comments, anything, on here that involves us?
I'm looking for the rest of my reports.
I get an extra one here.
You know what?
I have it. See, I found it. No, I found it. Right here. Two, three. Where's three? Stapled. No, it's not stapled.
It's the original. I'll give it back to you.
So ZBA 2181 Providence Highway, it's a sign, so there's no jurisdictional areas. 960 West Street, I think it's supposed to be 200, not 200.
Ah, yeah, because Doug just noticed that. He
I was
was,
trying to figure out
he was
where did
puzzled.
this 20 feet come from? That's
Yeah.
something new.
Yeah.
200, okay.
200 feet from the wetlands. The wetlands is way back in the rear, so they don't need to file. 990 Boston Providence Highway, that's the hotel that sits half in Walpole and half in Sharon, which we looked at already. And then 9 Country Club Road, that's no wetlands jurisdiction. It's on the other side of Country Club Road. And the plan for this planning board, which I failed to write the name of the subdivision. There's no wetlands associated with that either.
We have to do
Oh, I know what
land
that is. Sorry,
disturbance.
that's the definitive plan, industrial. That's the industrial version of the Remnar. So they had to, for some reason, they had to file a subdivision plan for an industrial use and for their residential use, so. there's really no
That's the one we
comments
have
there.
an order on the Renmore?
Yes,
Okay.
which they'll be coming back to us for a amendment.
Okay. All right, so that's, those are all done. What else we got? That, 100 Naponton Street, that's the Bird Machine. They must have gotten a new engineer, they changed their name. It's Wood Mass Inc. And that's phase 5 status, under correspondence. They send
Oh.
out a report on their monitoring wells.
Right, that's the company that's doing
That's a
the-
new company name. I don't know if it's a new company or not. New name.
I think it's just the new company doing the review.
Yeah, but it's a new name. They changed their name from whoever, it was. I forget who it was last, but there you go. All right. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Someone want to, make a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Are you ready?
I'll move that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.